All right, welcome back to End of the Double Dragon podcast. This is episode 119. It's your boy Shane Greenwood here, Double Dragon Martial Arts Studio. We are staggered for social distancing purposes. And with me I have Hugh Donald.
Hello.
And Trenton Lawrence.
Hello.
How you fellas?
Pretty
Fine.
good. Getting through it.
Corona free.
That's a nice shirt you got, mate.
This is a nice shirt.
It's a pretty banging shirt.
12 Isolation Champions COVID-19 2020.
Did you get that from Inkstone?
I did get that from Inkstone.
Yeah, Inkstone Printing. One of our friends are doing a lot of COVID shirts, and it's also raising money for a good cause. So get on them. That's like they're doing some good stuff.
I bought a series of COVID-19 shirts because I'm a good guy.
That's right, the best guy. All right, but we have another guest today. So from here, the owner of Muay in ACT, trained fighters such as Deandra Martins, Daniel Marshall, Josh Tonner, is a WBC rep, and all these fighters have been on some of the major shows of Australia: Rebellion Muay Thai, Siam to Sydney, Rogue Muay Thai, and Destiny. We have none other than Kieran Walsh. How are you, sir?
Thank you. I'm good, man. I'm good. I think I want one of those T-shirts. Hey, I saw Hugh post that up earlier today, and I thought maybe he'd bought it off. You know, whenever something big happens on a you often get sponsored Facebook posts or Instagram posts with really like quirky T-shirts.
They'd get me as well with their targeted ads.
I reckon you could make a bit of money from that shirt. Everyone's gone, $20. I'll spend that. That's pretty funny. I'll wear it for like 4 weeks and then forget about it, and you find it 10 years later and remember what COVID was. Like, I reckon,
I'm waiting
that's
for
a bit
Tiger King shirt to arrive.
It's a money maker, that one. I like it.
Awesome. So usually when someone's first time on the podcast from here, we just usually ask the first question is like, how did you get into martial arts in general, and like your background in it?
My mum got me into it, and so how it started was mum had a friend, and her friend had a son who trained a particular kung fu. It was mantis boxing at the time, and it was his self-defense piece. Anyway, long story short, one night he got attacked out in the city, and the story goes is that she pictured in her head this whole probably like kung fu scene, and like some guy smacking a knife out of the hand, and then she thinks, oh, okay, you need to do something like that. And I was probably, I was maybe 9 at the time, I'm not sure. And she brought me along to a gym and brought me up there because she said, this is where they do it. And so she brought me up the stairs and said, oh, like, can you, Kieran, this is my son, blah, blah, blah. I want to get him enrolled in something so he's got self-defense. And the woman behind the desk was like, oh, yeah, cool, but he's probably going to be the youngest in the class by a long way, because it was all, sort of people who were 18, 19, 20 or whatever. And I was a little asthmatic, unathletic, fucking like little soft boy who's like not intimidating in the slightest. And he's gone, but why don't you put him in our kids kickboxing program? And it was like a sort of freestyle-ish, they called it like freestyle kickboxing back then, like a lot of gyms around Australia did, like Melbourne and Sydney and what have you. And it just started from there. It just that was my first foray into it. And then, 21, 22 years later, I've now got my own, I'm now sitting in the middle of my own gym. So it was a good ride, but that's the start. From potentially I could be wearing like some ridiculous, like, kung fu uniform, like teaching in like the journey could have gone very different. So the woman behind the desk, I think, saved my path. I'm very grateful to her.
It's funny how paths, diverge.
Oh, man, it could have gone a alternate Kieran if there's like Spider-Verse, there's different Spider-Man. Man, the other Kieran's probably a massive weirdo, I reckon.
Coming out looking like Steven Seagal, got a ponytail, a more shaven goatee than you have now. And a kung fu suit.
I don't, man. Hopefully, Kieran in the other universe has got more hair as well, because the ponytail spot was where I first started losing it. So I'm not growing a ponytail either. So maybe that was destiny doing its job.
Ah, cool. So, like, yeah, you did have a few fights as well. Like, when you did compete and things like that, when did you decide to go, like, it's time to hang up the gloves and transition to more of a coaching type of role?
So I had my first fight when I was a teenager. I think I was 16, and it was a kickboxing fight, and it was against one of Richard Neradal's. So for New South Wales, it was against a guy from Richard Neradal. I've got a pretty terrible memory, but I still remember a guy called Alex Chappell. From Richard Neradal's Southern Martial Arts, kickboxing, like wetsuit shin guards, back what it used to be like, wetsuit shin guards. I don't know if it was probably 3 90-second rounds. It probably wasn't even 3 2-minute rounds. Mm-hmm. That was my first fight, and then it slowly built up from there. I finished on about 16 or 17, but in my first fight, that very first fight, at the end of the fight, we took my glove off, and my wrist was really sore. Like, it really hurt, and I remember that night I went to bed with it on ice, on a bag of ice. Like, my mates stayed with me in this hotel, and they got me some ice, and I was just like, man, really sore. And the next day we drove back to Canberra, and I went to the emergency department, and they got in, and we explained it all, and they go, it's probably just a boxer's fracture, which is just a very common fracture for people in sports like this, impact, whatever. And from then, it never really felt good. I never had a fight that it like constantly gave me that sort of, even in training, sometimes I wouldn't punch with it in training because it would get really sore. And I just came back, I fought on a Knees of Fury, this like 11 years ago, and then went off to IFMA, and I fought in the World Champs in Bangkok, maybe 2009, and I came back and my hand was at the point. I had a fight. Actually, no. I had my second fight then against Michael Green. New South Wales. Yeah, Michael Green. My second fight against him. And afterwards, I was like, fuck, this is really bad. And my girlfriend at the time, her stepdad was the head physio for the whole Australian Institute of Sport. Like, he ran the whole department. And he's like, let me have a look at it. And he sort of did his thing and referred me off to this surgeon. And we found out that I have this disease in my wrists, which is called Kienbock's, and it's like a degenerative disease. And so what happened was I broke it in that very first fight, and it was misdiagnosed. And then all of the bones, basically all of the bones in there are dead. All of the ligaments disappeared. The lunate being that small rotation bone in the middle, which is still there, but it's completely in half. So it's just 2 halves sitting there. And then, people won't be able to see it if they're listening to it, but you guys can see that's only as far as back as I can push it compared to this one. And so it was completely fucked. And the wrist surgeon goes to me, mate, you have the wrist of a 95-year-old, and maybe what you do isn't for you. And naturally I was like, fuck, I was only 21 or 20. All I ever wanted to do was fight. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't go to uni because I wanted to fight. Nothing else mattered to me. And I was immediately in one of those positions that you're in the shoes of those athletes who figure out they can't do what they want to do anymore and then don't know what to do. And I had this short period of just kind of like depression, basically. Like, fuck, what do I do now? Like, I don't know. They're saying I can't do this. If I keep fighting, I won't fucking, my arm will be completely gone. What do I do? And so after a while, it doesn't happen quickly. When you go in, you get real anxious and depressed and whatever. I was like, well, I was already coaching. I was already doing PTs at the gym. It's like, I'm just going to coach more. And that's basically, it just kind of transitioned from there. I was like coaching beginners, and then I'd help with some fighters, and I'd hold pads, and I'd do this, and then it would just slowly build and build and build. And I was lucky that I got thrust into coaching from 18. So it just kind of like I've been able to have a decent length of it under my bonnet, so to speak. And yeah, and that's where I ended up. It was out of circumstance that I got pushed into coaching.
We'll probably move into, we talked kind of coming straight from kind of how your fight career came to an end. And we're going to talk a lot about you as a trainer in this. But is there any kind of like career highlights that you want to touch on from yourself as a fighter?
Matt, honestly, the biggest burner for me was I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. And I've never hidden that either, you know. I had this image in my head, you know, multiple time world champion, all of these sort of things, these goals, and I was so relentless that nothing else mattered. I didn't consider anything else. I used to do, you know, I would just be very focused, like hyper focused on it. And I would look at guys like, say, I remember one person I used to compare myself with was Antoine Pinto, because at the time he was really young, but he was so much better than me and I hated it. And I was like, fuck, what? Yeah, this guy's younger than me and he's better than me. And I was just so fixated on it. And I think the hardest thing about finishing was I didn't have what you're saying, you know. Like I look back and I go, going to IFMA was cool. Got a big cut in my chin and got like 30 stitches in a back alley Bangkok hospital. I got to you know, fight people who are still around now, like Michael Green, Floss, like Andrew Webb, all these guys. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. I had some moments in fights which I always look back on, and I used to love takedowns and tricky stuff, and I have some cool memories to look back on that, like, oh man, I did that. You know, those takedowns were cool, or this looked really cool. And so that's what I take away from it. But I don't have any, I think it's why I'm so obsessive with coaching now and helping people reach the pinnacle of what they want to, because I didn't get to. Yeah. Like, it's a bit of, I want to help them to do it. And so, Did your mind switch? So to find out as a young guy that you couldn't continue fighting, sticking around in the gym and shifting your attention to training other people, was that something that you immediately felt passion for? Or was there like when you're first in that gym and all your, you know, training partners are continuing to compete and you're kind of easing into that coaching role, was there ever a little bit of a feeling of kind of like, fuck this, like, why am I here if I can't fight? Or did that passion come sort of immediately for training others? I think I always knew that, like, this is my life. Yeah. Like, I always knew that, you know, Muay Thai or fight sports or what sport is my life. You know, this is what I love. And so you would have moments for that, sure. Like, you have almost like anxiety attacks and like short bouts of depression, because you're like, fuck, like, well, why? But then the why is still the sport. You can still contribute to it. And whilst I didn't get to that, once I finally got to, and I can't pinpoint it, but once I finally got to be cornering and coaching and taking people away, and they would win a fight, say, I go, oh, fuck, this is that good feeling. Like, this is that cool sort of feeling that I don't have anymore. And that's probably what, kept it on.
As you shifted into that coaching role, did you start to feel like a lot of your perceptions of the sport and how it should be done kind of changed? I'd imagine you'd say they've probably changed a lot. Did they start to change sort of right away? Or like, how did the kind of lens you saw the sport through, how did that change as you shifted roles into becoming a trainer rather than a fighter?
It changed quite a bit, but I really overanalyze things, and I've done that since I was younger. And I used to watch, you know, even when I was like an early teenager, before I'd fight, my mates used to get the shits because I'm always watching different fights and being exposed to different styles. And back then was, and I mean, like Shane could appreciate this, in that time, you were exposed less to Muay Thai like you are now. But I was so obsessive, I had to watch different things. And like, I loved, one of my favorite things back then was like K1 Max. Yeah. And I loved K1 Max in its heyday. And I used to watch things and the way they do it and training videos. And I very quickly saw that there's, you know, this whole world and everyone does everything differently. And you just have to learn to take away the best from it all. And I started that when I was fighting. And, you know, probably much to my coach's disappointment, I used to do things considerably different to what we were being taught, because I would see it and I would go, I think that works better. Like, stubborn, you shouldn't do it. Like, if my fighters did that nowadays, I'd be a bit fucking annoyed, like, in hindsight. But that was just me. And I kept that through with me into the coaching and that constant sort of development and learning and watching and being exposed to it.
So as you're shifting into that kind of, that new role again as being a trainer, did you sort of take it upon yourself to kind of like start going about different sources of like, was there anything different you did to kind of educate yourself about coaching, or did you kind of just use that in-ring experience and translate it to training other people?
Yeah, I think, obviously just watching, a lot of it's trial and error too sometimes. A lot of it's trial and error too with athletes sometimes, like you think something's going to work for them and it didn't, and then you just remember that for the future. And so part of it was trial and error, part of it was watching and studying, and part of it was, it dips in on like to what we'd talk about later about the gym and my concept about why I run the gym this way. But I used to watch a lot of what coaches outside of Muay Thai would do. Like specific sports coaches and the way they approached it, and that heavily influenced the way I then approach my coaching and development.
Yeah. So you touch on it there, like that we're going to get into it. So why don't you talk to us a little bit, kind of, sort of when and how Muay U came about, explain kind of what inspired the Muay U name.
So
and you can talk about some of the developments, because you haven't had the gym open that long. It seems to get bigger every time you post it.
I watch a lot of American sport, and so I love like college sport. I watch the NFL quite a bit. I like to watch the NBA, but I don't follow it as much as I'd like to. But I love college football as well. And the one thing that always stands out to me with college sport is how just passionate people are about it in America.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, people live in, they're 70 years old, and how their college team performs is like top of their mind. And I love that. I love that, like, it's part of the culture. It's part of people. And the reason I basically modeled the gym in the theme of American college sports. So the Muay U stands for university. So Muay U, some promoter said Muay United once, and I was like, so Muay U, the U, and it's the idea behind it was I want that same passion and fanfare for our sport. I want it for all, it's not just Muay Thai, I want it for all combat sports. The same way boxing has been around for so long that people are so passionate about it, but I want it for all combat sports, MMA's done a pretty good job of it through the UFC. They did a great job at building it up, and what they've done is like, perfect as a case study. I don't hate any particular kind of martial art. I don't think, Taekwondo should exceed over karate, over this, over that. I think martial arts is a collective. If it can be such a big part, which it slowly more and more is, I wanted that same fanfare with Muay Thai, man. It's at a Muay Thai show at the moment, it's you either train at a gym or it's your friend or your family that's coming to watch. I want it to be, people talk about it, it's mentioned on the news, that sort of fanfare is what drove the idea behind the brand. And then that's the brand and the theme. And then the only other thing was cleanliness. I just wanted to have a super clean, really schmick sort of looking gym, because I think that's important, because the only way that you can grow a sport is by encouraging more people to do it. And combat sports sometimes can attract just fucking knobheads. Like, it's just dickheads, and people are intimidated to then go and train. But I've always said, I don't care if you're 6 or you're 60 or you're fucking you want to do it for fitness, you want to be a world champion. Everyone gets treated the same. Everyone gets taught the same way. Everyone is comfortable to walk into the gym. no, like everyone's nervous. You get that. Like you guys would know. Sometimes people walk in and they talk to you and they got they're like nervous to be in there, right? But I want them, as soon as they've gotten past that, they've walked up the stairs. As soon as they're in that first bit of nervousness, I want them to go, oh man, this is really inviting. Like I really want to be here. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers to overcome to grow the sport. And so that sort of ethos behind it, everyone to do it, everyone's friendly. There's no congregations. It's not cliquey. Dickheads get kicked out. Everyone can come and everyone's just supportive, right? Like there's no sort of egos or bullshit about it. And that's the gym. That's what I've tried to create. And I've been lucky that the fighters have held on to that for me. Like I've told them, please, if you see someone that you've never seen before and they're sitting by themselves, please go talk to them. Things like that. And it's I've been really happy to see that that's organically grown without me having to sort of say it to people. Like this friendly sort of environment is growing. And it's really cool. I miss it. I'm sick of these fucking COVID nights. Oh man, I miss it.
It's like we talked about like heaps of time on the podcast from you. It's like, when I took over the gym, the main thing that we had to change was like just a culture, more of a friendly culture, I guess. Like back in the day, like when you're fighting and I was fighting a little bit from there as well. Like just look at the scene that we were fighting on. Like the shows were not seedy, like a lot of them. And like nowadays, like from here, like how the gyms look is like almost how like the more reputable promotions look. It's fan friendly, it's family friendly, it's clean. Everyone's having fun. No one's like carrying on like a dickhead.
Exactly.
There. And I think it's going in the right direction. It's
got to be inviting. And the other thing that I've like, Matt, one thing that grinds me is when people like put up a gym that's like, there's no mats and there's like half dead bags and the rings falling apart. Like this is what a gym should like. Shut the fuck up. Like people, they are not in that gym. They are in that gym out of circumstance. Like they're born into poverty. Like people who are training in shitty fucking falling apart gyms, it's not because like, look at a gym like Pet Indy.
Yeah.
Pet Indy in fucking Bangkok is so nice.
That place
Does that change? Does it change the training? Does it change the trainers? No, like I fucking hate that. Like, oh, this is what a gym should look like. Well, fuck, if you want that, man, your sport's going to be shit for those people. Yes, it probably breeds hungrier fighters, but the difference is those fighters are fighting to get out of poverty and make money. Like that is not, if you walked up to that same fucking gym and were like, hey, do you want $100,000 and I'll build you the best gym in the world? Do you reckon they're going to go, no, this is what gyms should look like? Fuck off, man. I think if you want to make you've got to try and make gyms, like it's not going to train it. So long as you've got the right ethos behind your coaching, the right coaches, the right quality, the right talent, you fucking, how it looks, that sort of, that shouldn't, man, I'm not going to rant about that anymore. I think you get my point.
Hey, it's fine. Definitely.
You did, though, touch on a couple of things that we were going to get into with you anyway, because there's things that, we've spoken about before, but we're recording now, so I'll bring them up again. So, like, you mentioned about this idea of, you mentioned a couple of things that kind of tied together about thinking of Muay Thai as part, because combat sports, if you thought of it collectively, it's growing very quickly. And thinking about trying to push Muay Thai into that combat sports collective a little bit and get, thrive off of some of that growth a little bit more. A few things. Do you think Muay Thai at times has been held back within the community by, because like some people within Muay Thai would really like to say, when you say Muay Thai, it can all be together like boxing, like MMA.
Yep.
A lot of people say, no, fuck that. Muay Thai is here. And everything else is over here because we want to just, it's just Muay Thai. Do you think people within Muay Thai have held back its growth a little bit by sort of not wanting to? Because you can mention to people as well, if there's any method of the marketing that's driven MMA to be at the forefront of mainstream sports, if you said, maybe there are pieces of that model that Muay Thai could follow, there would be a lot of response to say, no, we're not going to do anything the way MMA has done it. Do you think people within Muay Thai kind of hold it back by taking that attitude of being such a niche sport compared to other combat sports and really actively rejecting?
Yeah, I think, yes. Like, look, let's be frank. Muay Thai's not in the position I think it should be.
Yeah.
It's frankly not. And I think that is, 100% yes. Also, it's still considered, when you compare it to something like boxing, I would still argue that it's in its youth or its infancy for being more commonly accepted in Western countries like ours, not obviously considering Thailand and the like. But, yeah, I think they have held it back. And there is things like that, there can sometimes be a bit of it's almost like a bit of a complex. It's almost egotistical, like trying to say that it's better than another or trying to kind of put it down over and it's sort of, quite bluntly, yes. Like that's the best answer is they do hold it back. And it's not to say that you have to change the sport.
Yeah.
Nothing about the sport has to change. That's not, and you don't have to have, like a Conor McGregor version in Thai boxing. You don't have to have people trying to get easy views off of, saying crazy things and doing stuff. But you do have to do things like look at any professional sporting code and what do they do well, right? Like the media and the promotion and the this and the that. Like you have to put effort into that. People don't just show up.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think? Like, it doesn't just happen, right? Why do you think the NRL's fucking marketing budget is as big as it is? Do you think if it was $0 that as many people would go? Like, yeah, it's an accepted sport, but you still have to talk about it and grow. And I think commercial nous, like the ability to be commercial about things, is missing.
Yeah.
Meaning a lot of promoters and like, look, if you get annoyed by me saying this, maybe you're that person, but a lot of promoters are just concerned with every show selling the same amount of tickets so they get the same amount of profit and then that's it. See you later. And they've done that for a decade.
Yeah.
And it's like, how the fuck do you want the sport to grow then?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, one or two of them, but there's too many of them.
Yeah.
And promoters are turning around. It's like you see shit on Facebook. It's like, oh, Australian title fight, pay your own way. Get the fuck out of here. You got to treat that like, man, you have to treat the athletes like athletes.
Yeah.
Sports don't grow if you treat them like fucking like second rate. This isn't pay your own way, year 12 soccer camp. These are guys and girls that fight.
Yeah.
And they put their body on the line and you have to treat it like that.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the time, anytime you start to raise that question of like, Muay Thai is a very exciting combat sport. A lot of people who will watch MMA will watch Muay Thai. They're just not exposed to it. As soon as you start to bring up that issue of media exposure and stuff, people take it to mean you're saying we're trying to adopt the exact same model as MMA, and they go, yeah, but we don't need people punching each other at face-offs and flipping each other off. It's not about what this sport is about. But like, I think you can compare it to like a place where the sport is promoted a lot better than here is the UK. And if you look at what they do there, is they just have consistent media. Like when there's fights going on, there are professional, dedicated publications and websites that are just keeping people in. Like all it really has to be is a matter of keeping people in the loop of what's going on and letting them hear from fighters and stuff like that. Because sometimes in Australia still, like when there's one of the big shows on, like Rebellion or Rogue or Destiny, or you know when that's going on, they're promoted well. But there are still good fights on the smaller shows, and sometimes I'll see a fight come up. I'll see a weigh-in picture pop up on my, and I follow Australian Muay Thai as closely as anyone does, I think. I'll see a weigh-in picture pop up, and I'll go, oh, I had no fucking idea that fight was happening. At no point did I.
Man.
That's the problem. It's not like we need someone to start like, flipping the bird at their opponent at weigh-ins and like spitting in their face in the face-off. It's just about exposure. Like people don't understand that needs to just be like, people need to have access to what's going on. Like, that's all it's ever been. It's not, like, we got to start.
Yeah, and you also have to, like, Hugh, you'll know this is one of my favourite ranting topics, but you also have to, like, say a big title fight in any sport, be it boxing or whatever, those two people fighting for it usually very well deserve it.
Yeah.
When you have 50 million different titles floating around, how are you meant to make one any bigger than the other? Yeah. How are you meant to grow a sport? You can't. When you're sanctioning these just stupid titles between two guys, and you look at it sometimes, you think, like, for some fighters, and it's never, I don't blame fighters. Yeah, like, fighters want to fight for titles. It's never their fault. I think the buck stops at the promoter a lot of the time. Like, man, if you really want to do right by this sport, you have to not sanction that. You have to not put that on. But it comes back to what I said earlier. They're putting it on to sell tickets, not to, like, please, no more fucking Australia, like Sydney versus Auckland, or like Brisbane versus Auckland fucking world titles. Yeah. We don't need any more, no more South Pacific world titles. It's not, you want to create that as well. Those few things you have to consider to bring it back up. Yeah. Make it look prestigious and make people really want to get behind it. But when people see 10 Australian titles every weekend, no wonder they get confused or don't know.
I think it's like also like a lot of like the reputable sanctions from there are pretty transparent of like, who deserves it. Like there's rankings, there's ranking committees from there, which kind of goes into the one like, for yourself, you're part of the WBC, Muay Thai, which like, has an excellent ranking system. From there, it's really building in. How did you link up with WBC and like what's WBC's like I guess what's their mission now, like going forward for Muay Thai?
WBC, I mean, obviously WBC is recognised in boxing. Not everyone knows the story behind not everyone knows the Muay Thai story behind it, but boxing, obviously, it's like arguably one of the biggest or the biggest sort of sanctioning body. That sort of green belt is synonymous with, achievement or excellence or whatever you want to say. I got linked up with it. So my Mexican boyfriend, Aram, he that's a joke for everyone listening, by the way. So Aram, who owns Sitsoton in Sydney, he was the New South Wales rep. He became the New South Wales rep. He and I are best mates. And I was like, I'll do it for Canberra. Tell him I want to do it for Canberra. Not that, it's not like much is going on here, but I was like, tell him anyway. That would be cool. I'd love to get like involved and just do whatever we can. And then it pretty much went from there, and I got it, and they're like, yep, here you go, WBC, and cool. And we're trying to work on some things with the government down here, but that's how I got involved, and I wanted to get involved because WBC, like for me, it's WBC and WMC, and that's it. I don't consider much or anything outside of that, and the WBC as well, however, the WBC is a professional sanctioning body. Yeah. It does not sanction amateur, right? It doesn't do amateur competition. So, say like in Australia, for example, the role that the MTA plays is great. They fill a perfect, what they do, there's obviously two halves, the sort of WMC half and then the MTA half. What they do is the amateur MTA sort of peak representative body is perfect. They fill that great. And then they've got the professional WMC side, but I think there's room for both because both have history, and both are obviously pretty well known. And I mean, most people don't know the story. WBC Muay Thai exists because the King of Thailand asked Mauricio, the president of WBC Boxing, to bring WBC prestige to Thailand and to Muay Thai, and they held basically a meeting at the King's Palace, and there's photos, you can see it. There's General COVID, who is the current head of the WBC Muay Thai. There's the King. There's Mauricio. This is like, to be asked by the King, we want like that's pretty big to say. Can you bring the WBC to Muay Thai? And then that's where it started. General COVID funded the WBC for a long time to grow it, and it's now, I mean, under the guidance of the General Secretary Kevin Noon, who I mean, a lot of people in Muay Thai would probably know, but he runs like Siam Fight News and a lot of other things. He's done a great job to really grow and push it. And look, I think that I can't speak personally on them, but I think the plan is just continue to sanction and grow Muay Thai as a professional sport and bring that and keep that WBC prestige. I mean, I was lucky enough to go to the convention in Mexico last year, and I mean, which I remember all of except for the night when I drank tequila with Mexicans, and then that was just like possibly the worst hangover I've ever had in my life. That was incredible going there. Seeing how boxing does it, you just think, fuck, like these people, like they were, oh man, like Golovkin was there and all these guys where you're like, man, it's amazing seeing all these people and what they do and they talk about it, and it's like the fact that they're trying to push Muay Thai towards this, that's just like, as a trainer, as a rep, as whatever, it's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting.
It's so unfortunate that that sort of WBC Muay Thai specific conference didn't get to go ahead in March. That would have been sick. Because that event they were going to have at Lumpini was absolutely stacked as well.
Cool, eh? Yeah. It's just, it's a pretty well recognised brand, but I mean, people get caught up about it in Thailand. Like, in Thailand, people don't care. Fighting's just fighting. Like, belts are belts. But, man, you see, people argue. Man, I saw there was like, a couple of months ago, there was a WMO title at Lumpini. Like, people don't care. Like, in Thailand, they're like, whatever, fighting's fighting. But I think the best thing that WBC brings to Muay Thai is it's giving people outside of Thailand something very prestigious to aim for. Yeah. Because you're not, look, let's face it, most people aren't going to become Lumpini. Like, no, there's a handful of people, foreigners who have done it, Lumpini or Rajnamna, right? So no one, you need a goal outside of it to go for. There's also obviously a weight cap, right? Like 72 kilos, I think it is Raja, and then 69 at Lumpini. If you're over that, imagine if your dream was like, I want to be a Muay Thai champion in Thailand, but you're 80 kilos. Yeah. See you later. Like, this is just giving people an opportunity to go for something prestigious and make their mark.
And the other thing with that is, like, Muay Thai, like we talk, a lot of these things come back to the growth of the sport. And, like, people love that sort of, that super romanticized story of, like the John Wayne Park thing of, like, going to Thailand and spending time there. And, like, it's like, I have, like, tremendous respect for anyone who's done that. But do we want to all exist in a sport that we train in from Australia, where the only way to reputably succeed in any way is to uproot your life and move to Thailand and stay there for years and years and years? Like, don't we all benefit? Of course, like, there will always be massive benefit to going to Thailand, doing the training especially, but trying to fight there. And that's going to be a move some people will make. But A, yes, for the size thing's massive, because, like, just unlucky if you happen to be a cruiserweight. And B, it's just like that idea that aren't we all better off if there is opportunity to have the Thais fighting in Thailand, have Westerners developing their skills everywhere else, and then just linking up in, like, a uniform way to decide who comes to number one?
And I think you have to choose one or the other. If you want to be a stadium champion, you have to choose that path. If you don't want to, then you have to choose the other. Like, quite frank, like being quite blunt, because and if you do want to be a stadium champion, it's like you have to go and live in Thailand for a long time and grind away. You can't just go for a year. You can't go for a year and a half. It doesn't work like that. You have to, and look at most people. I mean, in Thailand, once you finish, you're broke again.
Yeah.
And that, if you do it, you have to do it purely because you're chasing that goal. Don't expect some pipe dream of being a famous athlete and having a lot of money, because, like, we can sit here and talk about every former Lumpini or Rajadamnern champion, man, they're not rich.
Yeah.
They're not their boxing equivalent. And so you have to chase the stadium bit for the passion. But I've seen many people come home with half a goal achieved, broke, and fucking don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not. I mean, look, if it's what you wanted to do and you were happy, I'm big. I'm experiences over money, but
Yeah.
you do also have to be pretty blunt. And part of being a coach is managing someone's career.
Yeah.
And you really have to guide them along that way. My boy Dan was obviously, Hugh, you've fought him three. Fuck, how many times you guys fought? When he went over, I was like, look, man, you know, this and that, but it was almost like, don't go to this gym or this gym because you're going to get stuck and you won't make the most of it. Or go, like, it was like, go to he lived at FA group because it was like, you're going to get good clinching and you'll get to fight on a bunch of different shows and maybe even some foreign. Like, if you wanted to go for 6 months, you could go to Sitmonchai and live at. You could go live at Sitmonchai and fight on Max Muay Thai and get way more exposure than someone who goes and tries to like live at Titigaugau and fight at stadiums.
Yeah,
the training is going to be better at Titigaugau, but you're gonna come back. You know, like, so you have to kind of weigh those things up, right?
Yeah, because some people as well, there is like that very, like we said, like romantic idea of people really want to go to that traditional Thai camp. And like, I respect that a lot. Like, that is definitely unexperienced to go in. And like, if you love the sport as well, it's a good way to really try and experience it the way that Thais experience it. But I do, I do think sometimes people, they go away for this dream, like, I want to go to this really, like, this rural gym and I'm going to train the way they train and I'm going to work my way to the stadiums. See you in 6 months. And I go, man, like, if that's your plan, I'm going to see you in 5 years. Like, if everything goes straight,
exactly.
Like, you know, like, people, that's where, because I don't actually know why, because I've really barely even been there, but I get a lot of questions from people, what should I do about this and this, about going to Thailand? What's the best way to get a run at the stadiums and stuff? And you think, like, my advice to them always is, like, manage your expectations. Because, like, if you're going over there with 6 fights, and you probably, like, to go overseas for 6 months as someone from Australia, that is a long time to be away, and you can develop a lot in 6 months. But if you're, like, we just live in that kind of instant gratification society where people are like, if I stay 6 months, that's ages. Like, I'll be, like, smashing Rajadamnern by the end of it. But, like, that's what I say, like, don't be a hipster. Like, don't be like, I have to sleep on the floor.
Muay Thai hipster.
You know, like, you know, because a lot of people go for those medium-term runs of kind of less than a year. And the entertainment shows like Super Champ and Max that people sort of scoff at a little bit are probably your best opportunity for hard but reasonable matchmaking and for just a kind of experience that. Because if you go the stadium route as well and you really want to start from scratch, 6 months is going to be fights that you're probably going to just walk over. Because that's how matchmaking works. If they don't know you and stuff like that, you're going to fight sort of scarcely trained people who are jumping in for a bit of money. Like, it's quite a... There's a lot of layers to Muay Thai in Thailand that people don't realise. But also the problem is people are deliberately oblivious to some of the layers because people that have gone there and squashed C-class fighters want to come home and just passionately defend that they went and lived the dream. Like, you know, I went to Thailand for 3 weeks and I became Bangla champion against a Thai with 300 fights. Like, people aren't real with themselves like that because there is like they want a little piece of that story of like, oh, went and lived the dream. But, you know, like,
man, it's true. Like, it's just but you got to be honest.
Yeah.
And if you look, going to Thailand is great because you get to train twice a day.
Yeah.
And you get to do it 6 days a week, and you're going to come back so much better because you don't have anything else to worry about. And if that's it, that's it. And you have to give a shit less about what people think about you because if you come back and they're like, oh, you know, you only did this, it's like, fuck, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, like, you don't have to. Yeah, it's true. You don't have to live this pipe dream. And look, the other thing is, Lumpini now is not what it used to be. For a lot of Lumpini 15 years ago didn't have fucking foreign and ice. You know, like didn't have it's not. Don't get me wrong. Fighting there is amazing. Fighting anywhere is incredible. Yeah. Fighting in Isan is cool. Like fighting is fighting, and if that's your goal, that's amazing. But yeah, it's right. You don't have to. You see people and they're like, oh, you know, I fought it, you know, this, and they make it seem like it was headlining a fucking show at Lumpini when it's perfectly okay to just have gone and fought, and it wasn't anything special. It was just an awesome experience and something you'll remember for the rest of your life. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to pretend to be something that it wasn't. That's, man, you learn more from that than most other things.
Definitely. Let's just circle back around again. So going back to yourself, like in your gym, like what is your coaching philosophies, or like does your gym like have a certain like style to itself that you prefer teaching or that you excel at teaching?
Having stylistically is our style. It's smart. Be smart. So make like everything that we do has a purpose. We train a particular way because it has a purpose, which carries through to fighting. Right? Like we don't train the beginners any different to the fighters. Everyone learns the same way, regardless of what the goal is. And it's stylistically, but also like nice to watch, like beautiful, like a nice style to watch, like a good kicker can do this. But the other thing that we've got is be a strong clincher, because I've just from the get-go, if a fight is close, it's often the clinch that changes it. Or you can quite frankly come up against a gym and you look at the gym name and you go, they can't clinch.
Yep.
and the plan is just go this. You go. I've said it to people before, right? And I've gone like Paris fought on your show, Shane, and she fought on yours. I said, Paris, this isn't going to look nice. Just go and grab her.
Yeah.
I said, just go and clinch her, and she did the same on tag team. She fought one of Peasy's girls, and I was like, Paris, this is not. You're not doing this to sell tickets. Like you're an interstate vid. Just grab her and clinch her for 3 rounds, and you're going to win. Yeah. And she did. And it wasn't the most exciting, but it wasn't like a ticket seller. You know, like it was doing what had to be done to win. And I always tell my guys and girls that Thai boxing is very simple. You do more effectively than the other person does.
Yeah.
That's at the heart of it. That's it. But similarly, like I drill the shit out of my guys to check. Like if they can't check with their back leg as well as they can with their front, you're in trouble. You know, like these core things that you have to be good at. You got to be a good body kicker. You got to be able to check well. You got to be able to clinch, and it just all kind of. We practice the best at what wins. And then when you get to a point where you're past 3, 4, 5 fights and you start to develop your own style, then we work on that. Yeah. You know, I push you in a particular direction. Otherwise, everyone's got that blanket. You know what amateur fights are like? 3-2s, it's just 2 guys just fucking going crazy until the other one wins, right? If you stamp, you got to wait and wait and wait. That's not going to work.
You don't have time.
It's 3-2s, anyway. Just go and fucking... Yeah, you don't have time. Go and fight. I tell them if you lose, I don't give a shit if you lose, but if you lose because you didn't do enough, I'll fucking tear you out. You know, that's like I also am a strong believer in discipline. Like very regimented. Like someone's 1 minute late, I'm tearing them out. Someone's not got their wraps in time, they're in trouble. Like because when you fight, you can't rely on motivation or the crowd. You have to rely on discipline when you're fighting, because when it comes to the 3rd round or the 5th round and you're both gassed, it's usually the one that can stick to what they have to do that is going to win.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I'm very strict. I'm super friendly and I joke around and whatever, but they know that if they do something wrong or Kieran's mad, like they get a bit worried, you know?
Yeah. That's how it should be as well, actually. Like, you know, the coach can't be your best buddy all the time. You gotta go fucking up him.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially this guy.
Yeah, I just never show up. Sometimes I'm just at home and I just get by like, fuck.
No shows up.
Be there for
half-asses everything.
Half-ass everything.
You know.
Just kick him out, Shane. Make him go run laps, man.
They keep trying, but they just won't leave. But they just pull up the gym every day. I'm already in here. It's like, who let you back in?
I didn't leave.
Going into off of that, going through a few topics that you've covered in some of your own videos on Facebook and that. From there, one of them was going between prioritizing, strength conditioning versus technique training. From there, so is that something you want to talk about in terms of what do you think of where how much strength and conditioning should play a part of training? If it's major or it's only more of a smaller part of the whole training cycle.
I think it's important, but similarly, I don't think you should waste time doing strength and conditioning if your fighter can't even do a proper push-up.
Yep.
It's kind of, some people are just, and change. I mean, you know more about strength and conditioning than I do, right? I don't pretend to, but if you can't fucking bench press a bar properly. Yeah, there are those core lifts which people could have pretty impressive strength gains from, just kind of standard level newbie gains, right? Like the term is. And so I think strength and conditioning plays a part. I just worry sometimes that people fixated on it too much, and it detracts from skill training. And it either detracts in the sense of your strength training when you could just be hitting pads, or you are, or your strength training, but then you're subsequently too tired to skill train appropriately. And I used the analogy when I spoke about it with my members the other week on our live chat. Thais don't squat, deadlift, throw battle ropes around. You watch Thais, the way they strength train, it's ridiculous. Half chin-ups and little push-ups and half bicep curls. Man, really, what do you think that's doing? They're good because they hit the pads twice a day. And the same thing, some people try and emulate Thais and they run for 10Ks. I'm telling you right now, that's not what's making them good.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of cardiovascular health or what have you, but if you focus on, especially when you're at the start, you can get more than enough from hitting pads a lot.
This is one of the most common. I would say that I get asked for advice by our newer fighters, but I don't get asked for it, but I give a lot of advice. We'll be kind of having a session and a lot of training in a lot of ways, especially if you maybe don't have a fight right on the horizon, a lot of what you do can kind of be sort of self-directed. You're in for a session and no one's really... When trainers have a lot of fighters to worry about, the whip's not getting cracked, directly on you all the time.
Mm.
And people will kind of be like, I'm going to finish my session with some fucking... I don't even know anything about exercise or some bullshit with the weights. And you start to what should I do, this or this? Neither of those fucking things. Grab the bag and knee it. Just knee the bag 500 times.
Yeah.
Because that's going to make your knees better and strong. Or people will be like, I feel like, my kick's not strong enough. What exercise should I do? Kick, man. These are the things that I get into these guys about, because people, and they love their, they watch UFC count. That's probably the biggest thing. I get a lot of the younger guys that come in, or the newer guys, I should say, that come in, that they have engaged with a lot of combat sports media, and when you get on to UFC Countdown, it's videos of dudes grabbing a bench press with chains hanging on it and and getting on an air bike and going nuts when it's but then what they want to do is emulate that style of training where everything...
Yeah, internet's just shit in this area. That's okay, but you guys keep going from here. I'm just going to set this up, but you keep going.
You were middle rant, Hugh.
Yeah, I don't know where the edit that we just... Okay, so there would have been a blip for people that were just listening. We're talking about strength and conditioning. The issue I was ranting about was that people want to enhance they've watched a lot of videos of their favourite fighters from various combat sports training, and they want to I guess it's there are sexier ways to train. Everyone wants to do advanced strength and conditioning and stuff. And they want to do things enhance the power of their kick or whatever by coming up with these just funky weights exercises to do. And I think, do you think one of the problems with people's perception of no one's ever, we do a lot of strength and conditioning here, like we wouldn't say it's not important, but it's just like we do a lot of training in the week. Like there's time to sneak some in. Like, do you think people just kind of over prioritize the importance of, or people just kind of think that they need to enhance their technique through strength and conditioning in ways that really just repetition will do?
Yeah. I mean, strength and conditioning is as well for me. It's not my field.
Yeah.
Like I don't consider myself like, yeah, I understand, I can teach someone to bench or I can teach you all to squat. Like I've been lifting for a long time, but I don't pretend to say that I'm like an S&C coach, or sorry, I don't pretend, like I don't know enough in that area to willingly want to prescribe things to certain people. I think it's why I said before, like, obviously Shane knows more than I do, because like for me, it's like I have to go externally to find whether it be programming like from a coach that we have a relationship with or what have you, because I mean, I could do things like, I don't know, hang a kettlebell from there and hold onto it and it feels like the head and do chin-ups and, maybe that makes the clinch stronger, right? Like, that's what the MMA world has kind of done in that, and like battle ropes and this. But I think, but as well, the majority of what people are doing is just GPP, right? It's just fucking physical preparedness. They're just putting a lot of things together and it's a bit of work. And so they've got unintended benefits from it. Yeah. As opposed to more specific training. So I think, man, it's such a big, people overly, what you said before, they worry too much about a particular thing when it's like, why are you fucking adding a band to your leg to kick with? Yeah. And you could just kick. It's not, and Ty's like, they shadow box with like 2 kilo dumbbells. And I'm like, I don't know what that's meant. Like, I don't get it, like just hit pads more and try and hit harder. But then subsequently, there comes a point when I think strength and conditioning is crucial. I don't demonize it. I don't think it doesn't play a place. Like, doesn't have a place. I think it's really important. My position is more so just the concern of people letting it detract from their sport. Yeah. As opposed to like, you're training to be a Muay Thai fighter first and foremost, not like just good at doing stuff, right? Yeah. Like, is that cross, like,
I think, like, do you think as well the problems, like, people do get this picture of how to train for combat sports from what they see on TV? Like, even with, like, myself, like, you can see me on Instagram slinging weights around all the time. Like, I lift weights heaps with Shane. And, like, but I have the luxury of that I train twice a day every day. So I still get, like, my full technique session in for the day. It's just when you've got 2 sessions a day, 6 days a week, 6 days a week to work with, you've got time to sneak those more isolated kind of weight sessions in.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like, but that's exactly right. Like, if you worked a 10-hour-a-day job, I'm not sure Shane would prescribe the same work for you, because he would consider that, like, the total volume of your full day, like, you probably can't keep up with it, or you can for a little bit and then you can't. It's exactly right. Like, if you have more time in a day, you can do more. And if you are afforded the time to be able to do S&C for an hour and a half, similar like Josh can do, perfect. Of course, do it. Yeah, 100%. But if you have to, if you work, you consider the nervous system, right? If you've got a stressful job, you work 10 hours, you sleep 6, your kids don't shut the fuck up, you got this, you got that, like, training has got to take the priority. Yeah. If you waste that little 2 hours you've got, 2.5 hours you've got, yeah,
definitely. Like the guys that do weight training with me, they happen to have the luxury of having more free time to do like these 2 sessions and that. And so it's not like a big list of people that I actually do weight training with, because like it's the same thing. Yeah, you got to prioritize your technique training, your sparring and that, and like, and if you do have time, let's put the strength conditioning in, but it's not really a major part for most people. Even to the point that some people from there just go, should I go for a run? And let's go, I don't know, maybe shadow boxing for half an hour at that same heart rate would actually suit you better because it's getting more time doing the technique and doing the sport.
Exactly. And that's you making an educated decision based off your experience. Whereas sometimes people just want to go and sling some fucking iron and just and they end up just ruining themselves, right? Like you're very intelligently sitting there going, you know, the cardiovascular benefit from that 30-minute jog could also be achieved by perhaps shadow boxing, but then similarly you have a like skill practice.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing. Yeah. So yeah, as opposed to just wanting to fucking bench and tear your rotor cuff out or something.
And it's like, you don't need to, like, I don't, because it's like the same thing, like, I know nothing about weight training and stuff like that. Like, if someone tells me they're supplementing their training with some kind of weights, I'm just like, whatever, I don't know, that's up to you. But it's when I haven't seen someone in training and they go, yeah, I went and did weights instead. It's when you're like, no, that's fucking dumb. Now I know that what you did was not beneficial to you. I don't know anything about weights, but I know that coming and actually kicking the pads and stuff like that would have been better. They're not one in the same for your training for a fight.
For sure. And it's also taking, like, if it's Christmas and you've got 4 weeks off, that's a pretty good time to strength train because you're not detracting from anything. If you've got 4 weeks off or you know you've got an extended period, that's a good time to work on a weakness like S&C. That's a great time, you know, get just some of those basic core numbers up and improve in certain areas, and then we can just work on maintaining it for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
You know, like you can't always be in a constant state of growth. You got to pick your battles. And that times like that, build it up and then just maintain it and hope you don't lose too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, I guess, during COVID time is a good time to do it. Yeah.
Man, I said that to a few guys and girls. I said, this is like, we have never had this.
Yeah.
There's never been an extended period where you can't compete and you're forced at home. Like, really make the most of it. Do things that you normally wouldn't do. Develop. I mean, Diandra and I live together. We've been strength training. Like, she's been strength training a lot more than she's been hitting the pads. And she's now, when we do pads, it's already a noticeable difference. Mm-hmm. But because we've picked this time, I picked this time to go, we'll get you a bit stronger.
Yeah.
And it's working, you know. It's a great time to focus on it.
Oh, definitely. And I just saw for yourself, because, like, yeah, same thing with, like, martial arts nerd, but also I'm a strength nerd as well. Seeing for you chasing a 180 squat, mate, from there, building those legs up.
What, 180 high bar, yeah, but I did something that, man, I was like, I had some back down sets the other week and I just was like tired, and on one rep I just missed, you know, like it just wasn't good placement.
Yeah.
And I kind of like I missed something, and then when you're carrying sub-maximal loads, when you're at like pushing up there, it's fuck, man, I did something and I was like, I woke up the next day and I've gone, oh yeah, right. That's oh shit, that doesn't feel good. So my road to 180 got paused for a week and a half. I'm just about to jump. Had some dry needling yesterday. I'm just about to jump back onto it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was actually jealous again. Look at that kind of squatting. Like, you know, before all this happened, I tore my ACL. From there. It's like, but like I'm back to the point, like, you know, where like I'm actually hitting the bag, and like I could probably do a run if I want to. So like, you know, when I go, oh shit, like, this is the first major injury I had, and then seeing people do shit, I go, fuck all these guys. I hope fucking COVID gets all of them.
Yeah, you get jealous, man. That's what I was like when I first stopped fighting. I saw people fighting. I was like, fuck you, fucking.
I caused Shane so much physical harm over the years. Like,
missing the pads, like just being a spastic.
Yeah.
No, not like that.
Yeah.
Not like that.
Sometimes.
Not like that.
Yeah, my eyes, my knees. I'm still here though. Hasn't killed me yet.
Still there, man.
He still lets me come up as well. He's such a trooper.
We got no choice, man. Trainers, doesn't matter how beat up, you just start to live with the pain, don't you, Shane? You just learn to like live with this constant aching, nagging of something.
That's it. It's just a coach life, mate, isn't it?
It's just part and parcel.
Speaking about, like, you know, fighters and pain and all
yeah,
that,
man.
from there,
Just the coach life.
Like Dan Marshall, he recently had a really big fight in Japan. Got kicked in the nuts 5 times.
Many times, a lot of kicks.
Oh,
Can you explain to us, like, the experience, like, like, it's something I always want to experience. Like, I haven't been to Japan, but that's really high on my list. Like, how was it fighting Japan? The fight itself, which was crazy from there, and, like, the overall experience of it.
fucking cool, man. Like going back to what I talked about earlier with loving K1 Max when it was in its prime. One of my fighting sort of heroes was Masato. Where, like, growing up, he was like, I just loved him so much, man. And I always I did Japanese the whole way through primary school. And, like, I studied Japanese the whole way through primary school and then tried to keep it on after. And I basically, the only thing that I wasn't very good in school, like most, like a lot of people that, like I struggled to focus because I was so interested in kickboxing, Muay Thai, and martial arts and whatever. So I didn't focus. But what I did, the only reason that kept me studying was Japan. And so when I finally got there, I mean, obviously it was taking Dan, but it was like, this is amazing. Like, I was just so fucking happy. I was like, it was just, and we just come off the back of Josh stopping Andy House. And so I'm like, fuck, man, I'm in a different world. And Japan, I've been to Japan quite a few times. I speak conversational level Japanese. And so going there is just, man, watching the way the promotions and the promoters and everything run, it's like it's just amazing. Apart from the fact that everyone's so polite and kind and all that, the professionalism. There was a promoter and 2 co-promoters. They're actually people. They were called co-promoters, man. Like, it was like they're like second in charge to the big promoter. It was like what boxing is, but for Muay Thai and kickboxing. And Dan, we got the fight offer, and we're like, yeah, of course. Like, doesn't give shit. Like, Dan will just fight whoever. He's pretty good like that.
Yeah. And
we got the offer, took it, trained up for it. He really badly fucked his sternum, and we just basically didn't train for like 2 weeks. And then hit pool noodles for like a couple days, and then we were off to Japan. So he was going into it like against in K1, which isn't really his specialty. He's a better Thai boxer to be able to clean. Having like not really trained, and it was just like at the same time I'm shitting myself because I'm like a bit of an anxious person by nature, and but the fight happened. It didn't bother him at all during the fight. He was fine, which was such a huge relief off of me. He was body kicking awesome, but it was just volume. Just didn't do enough volume.
Yeah.
Not enough. He really frustrated Hinata. He really just from these constant body kicks, but there wasn't the nut shots really kind of stopped the flow of the fight a little bit. It really threw him off.
And just for people who haven't seen that fight, if you're listening, Dan fought the, K1 Japanese legend Hinata, and he was, clean dropped with groin kicks, multiple times. It was so bizarre. Something that you'd see in, a really, in an amateur show, you just see someone that just isn't really good with their placement and just firing kicks at the groin. Dan was floored a few times in this fight. I think, how many times did Dan hit the deck off of
nut shot? 5. Literally, 5 out of 5. He's just
enough where that it was in that true Japanese style. The referee yellow carded Hinata, but then Hinata kicked Dan in the nuts again. So what? There was a reasonable grounds for disqualification. And these were there was no disagreeing that these were just rocketing into Dan's balls. There was no he was that could have been one on the thigh or something like that. These were and you could hear it the sound of a shin just bouncing off the groin guard. That's just that you could hear it every time.
Man, the hearing for sure. And every time Dan had dropped to a knee and he'd just be like, fucking, like he would be angry. He wasn't like, he was angry, and I was getting angry. Like, I'm a passionate corner person, and like when the referee first came over at the start of the fight, I was like saying things to him in Japanese, and the referee was like, oh fuck, why is this, like, was a bit confused that I could speak Japanese. Like, he was speaking English and Japanese to me because he wasn't sure. And then I'm yelling in the corner the second round after a few of them. I'm yelling at him in Japanese, like, give him 5 minutes, give him this, like, screaming. And I got in the ring at the end of the second round, and I looked at Dan. I was like, you fucking take that personally. I was like, just fucking, so furious, because it was just, man, and hats off to Dan. I've been when I was fighting or you're sparring, like, one nut shot is enough to make me want to throw up.
Yeah.
5, even with a steel Muay Thai cup, is not a pleasant feeling or experience.
With a hard left kicker as well, Hinata.
Yeah, man, that low kick, and the referee's like, oh, you got to turn your stance in a little bit, and like, no, you're not. He's not. No, like, he's not going to adapt just because he's kicking him in the balls.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. Like that. This is Dan's stance. This is how he will stand. He's not. Yeah.
It's like, stop putting your balls in the way. It's your fault.
Stop blocking your balls down.
Yeah. And Hinata got a card and got a point taken off for it. But then, so the fight ended, and I to my fault, always fall back into Thai boxing scoring.
Yeah.
And because Dan was scoring so many kicks to the arms, and, I was in my head, I was like, look, it's got to at least be an extra round. Like, K1 style, right?
Yeah.
Extra round. And Hinata lost a point, and then they read the score out in Japanese, and I understood it, but I had to stop because it was like, even with that point taken off, Hinata won all 3 rounds.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it was a bit bewildering. I was kind of like, fuck, I never complain about decisions. I don't like it. But I just remember even our guy, we had like the ISKA rep with us the whole time, the Japanese ISKA rep. I just said to him, I'm like, man, I thought surely like an extra round. And he was like, trying to be really polite, but he was like, yeah. He basically agreed too. And so I just thought, fuck, it's hard. Like, people know, especially in Japan, it's hard to beat Japanese fighters in Japan.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that by any means, because Dan should have had a better approach and more work rate and this and that. But I remember thinking live, this was my thought process live. I thought, surely with that nut shot point taken off, we can have an extra and Dan can just fucking go crazy.
Yeah, because I remember I was in Bangkok at the time of that fight, and I was at PK Sanchai, and they have like a little kind of mini stable of Japanese guys that regularly go there for months at a time. They've kind of built names at
Asahi
at the stadiums. And a couple of them are actually, their home gym is Hinata's gym. And I was having lunch with them a couple of days before that fight, and then I said, what do you reckon about, like, what do you know about Hinata? And obviously they're from his gym and he's a legend. They respect him a lot, and they say, tell your friend, left kick very, very hard. Tell him, like, just watch out. And I was like, I actually did tell them. I was like, just so you know, his left kick is hard. But they're like, yeah. They were both looking at each other, because they were kind of like, oh, one of your white guys is going to go fight Hinata. They would be like, so tell him left kick, very good, very strong. And I said, okay, Dan, the southpaw Hinata can left kick. But then they were both really like looking at me like, that left kick is really, really hard. Like, just watch that. And then they sent me the link to the fight, so I got to watch it. And I was just watching that. I was thinking about that while I was watching that left kick just wallop into Dan's balls.
And man, it's look, but the thing is, like, I don't care about the result in that. I'm so happy that Dan has realised that he can fight like a K1 veteran like Hinata, who's had 50 fights in a weight category above what he normally fights at, and end the fight and be like, man, that was really good. Like, I felt strong. he didn't feel any stronger than me. Like all those things, obviously losing sucks, but a guy who's fought Andy Sauer, a guy who's fought Andy Sauer twice, a guy who's fought all of these legends, man. And you're like, for him to be able to then fight him, it's like a real turning point. Yeah. It's like such a huge achievement. And I was just so happy and proud of him.
I mean, Dan, for me, I think he's had a rough go of it the last little while because, like, obviously I like to watch Dan fight, big fan of Dan's. And you see, like, it just seems to be one thing after the other. He's had little situational issues that have stopped him from being active. But because it was a while between fights, if I'm not mistaken, before he had been out a while when he fought Jamie on Yokkao, I think. And I was watching that fight. I was commentating that fight. And I'm watching Dan fight Jamie, and I was like, Dan looks really slicky. Like, he looks a lot better than I've ever seen him fight. Yeah, really good. And that was a very high-quality fight from both sides. Like, that was a really nice fight to watch. And I go, okay, this is very interesting. Like, I'm really keen to see Dan fight again. And then I had a couple of things on where it was a while before he could fight again. Gets to fight Hinata. Big opportunity, big step up. Gets kicked in the nuts over and over again. And then he finally gets his year in Thailand. Like, he's over at FA Group, and he gets to be there for, like, all of 5 minutes. I mean, like, he's got to go there and he got to get his entry fights done. Like, when you go to Thailand, like, like, you've got to get your Asiatique stuff done. There's a bit of a prerequisite to fight, to get your proper fights. He kind of gets that done. Also gets stitched up because he's, like, the only person ever that's gone and actually fought a top-end fighter at Asiatique. Like, fought Ben Kant. Asiatique, like, just stumbled across this. That would be a top-end Australian fight. Like, you'd get that here. That'd be a good match here. And then coronavirus hits and he's got to come home after getting himself all... Like, what a shit guy.
Yeah, but, man, Dan's one of those guys that is, like, loves it and trains hard, and you don't have to tell him to do stuff. He just does it, and he's just, like, he trusts you too, like, as a coach. The best thing about Dan is Dan just trusts and just does, what I tell him, and knows that what I tell him, and he's like, that to me is like, that's the reason I coach, is people like that and experiences like that, because I don't coach for money. Like, if I'm sure Shane would know, if you wanted to start your own business to make money, you wouldn't fuck it. You can make, there's a lot more things you can put your money into, and it's getting to spend time with guys and girls like Dan and create experiences and have memories like that, and have people around you that are sort of driven and motivated like he is, and even in the position of bad circumstance, like you say, don't let it overly affect him. Dan will never say that stuff is, he might say it to you personally, but he never will more broadly. And so, like, Dan's, like, I consider Dan my family, like I do a lot of others, because we've been through so much, and he just, he's been through a hard go, but everyone does. Yeah. No one's special, no one's different to anyone other. Everyone's got bad circumstance, and you just got to make the most of it, and he does. So, yeah. Yeah,
I always really like Dan's kind of attitude. Like, he's a hard dude to bother. Like, it's not like you hear from him if he has a hard fight or something like that, and he's going to really be just sulking about it. He takes things in his stride very well.
Yeah, on to the next one. He always is like, on to the next one. Is what it is.
Like most fighters, isn't it? Speaking of which, like, a guy that's just recently just come on board with you is Josh Tonner. So, like, well established, like, like a fast riser now. Like, ever since coming to one, always an exciting guy to watch. And recently just started training with you. So when we talked about it before, your coaching philosophy, how do you approach someone like Josh that's like vastly experienced on the big stages from there? Is there much that you have to change, or just like, just kind of work with his style and carry on from there?
Yeah, I think, Josh, we started training together a year ago. So I started training him a year ago, and just before about a year ago, just before not Andy House in the fight before that. And he came to me because, for whatever circumstances, blah, 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 and we started training together. And my approach is not to, if it's not broke, don't fix it, just add what you can.
Yeah.
And Josh has a lot of things that he's got a lot of things that he does really well, which I wouldn't always teach, you know, but he does a lot of things really well, and I don't want to change that. But what I think I've done and what I've tried to do is give extra to add to it, which fits in with what he does. You know, we've spent a lot of time improving his clinching for when he has to fight someone like Same, which we're hoping for, and, you know, spending time. The one thing I hope is that the difference that people might notice, we focused a lot more on being a better, stronger kicker and not getting into crazy brawls.
Yeah.
Like not getting into 50-50 brawls and applying a little bit of like tact to it. Josh will always be Josh. He'll always be the, like Chevello calls him, the little Aussie battler. Yeah. But like just a little bit of a different approach to it, you know, like, and it was seen when he fought Lasiri, and that was before he joined me. Yeah. I watched that and I was like, fuck, this is something that we can work with. Like, this is going to be a strength of his. And then I just tried to add to it, man. But I can't take any, like, Josh had 48 fights before me. I don't take any credit. I don't pretend like I trained him from scratch or anything like that. Josh is Josh, and I'm just trying to add to it what I can and guide him based off my own training and philosophies. And yeah.
Is there like kind of a pressure for you as a trainer that comes with someone that's that experienced, and like someone that's like, he's well known, he's already contracted with one championship when he comes to you. Is there a kind of pressure for someone coming to you with that much experience, or do you have to sort of just treat it like you would any other fighter on any show?
Man, the same. Like I said, I'm an anxious person, right? I shit myself before anyone fights. Like, I'm always nervous before anyone fights, regardless of who or what they are or what they do. So I don't really see it any differently. I more see it as an opportunity. Like, wow, I'm blessed to have the opportunity. And yeah, I mean that's I'm just blessed to have the opportunity to have him, and I just look at the positive. I try not to focus on the stressful part of it. Otherwise, my anxiety will kick in, and I'll be like, I'll just yeah.
And Josh is teaching at Muay as well now. We still got you.
Yeah, you still got me.
Yeah. Is Josh is teaching at Muay now as well?
Yeah, I gave him a full-time job.
That was nice of you.
Nice.
What's it been like having him?
Yeah, I get.
The internet's just a little bit unstable.
That's all right.
What's it been like having him added into the team there? Having someone else with his experience.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, I gave Josh a full-time job, so I had someone to hang around with all day. But like, man, Josh is such a good guy. Like, honestly, he's like one of the true, like, he's a really good person, and he does really well by me, and he's like such a great employee, you know? Like, he's not, I say employee because I gave him a job, but I don't, you know, he's such an amazing asset to the gym. And he coaches a shitload for me. He helps me hold pads. He does this, he does that. Like, what he's added to the gym has been great. Like, I am, so grateful for it.
Definitely. All right, cool. So, before we have any more internet issues, I think that should be enough today. But yeah, that was awesome. Kieran, thank you for being on. This has been great.
Thank you, team.
Let listeners know where they can catch you, your gym. You also have your own podcast as well. So where can they find all that?
Yeah, so Muay Canberra on Facebook and on Instagram. There's a Twitter account, but I think it has like 2 tweets, so it's probably fucking useless. We do a podcast. We do a live podcast every Saturday called Muay Chat. We used to do pre-recorded ones, but like, I just get too distracted. I've got like ADD. I just get too distracted with things. So yeah, we've got Muay Chat Live. We do that every Saturday. Muay Canberra Facebook, Muay Canberra Instagram. I don't know what my Instagram handle is. I don't know.
I think you're Kieran Muay.
Well, that probably makes sense. Kieran Muay, and yeah, that's the best place to keep it. We had 2 guys won championship, which was a play on a. If you can pick up what that was a play on.
I get it now.
Yeah, which Joshy and I did for a little while, but we were like so up and down on that. We had some amazing content. I got an incredible videographer. We put some on the Muay Facebook page.
Yes.
Man, go watch those videos. Sean is really good. He's made some fucking cool memories like that. Andy Howson one, man, I watched it the other day when we were like middle of COVID. Fuck, I just wanted to cry, man. I was so sad. I was like, fight's back. Yeah, so Muay Canberra on anything.
Okay, cool. Excellent. All right, so thanks for listening to again. You can catch us on a YouTube channel at Enter the Double Dragon. Remember to subscribe to it. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, all podcast platforms. Facebook and Instagram is at Enter the Double Dragon. And we'll catch you next time, yeah?
See ya.
Cool. Let's